Dr. Zeke Emanuel, first of all, your reaction to the taking back the money, and there are House Democrats from the appropriations committees, I should point out, pointing out that he doesn't have the right to impound this money without going to Congress. We're talking about State Department appropriated funds that were supposed to be sent hundreds of millions of dollars in previous years to the World Health Organization. Without judging the World Health Organization at this moment, the pluses, the minuses, what they did, what they didn't do, the criticism around the world is that this is the worst time for the U.S. to be sending this signal globally that we are not cooperating and supporting a UN organization that does a lot of other things, polio and other diseases as well.
So let me make 3 points. First, let me be transparent. I've been a special advisor to the Secretary General there for a few months now, and at the WHO, and I think it is a very important organization. It's not without its flaws that are well known to the organization itself. Second of all, it is a kind of ludicrous decision in the middle of a pandemic where the WHO is key to coordinating worldwide responses. And in particular, I was on a call this morning at 6 a.m. about coordinating the ethics review of a master protocol to run vaccine trials in multiple countries so that we can get a vaccine trial quickly. And we were dealing with or being alerted to an ethical challenge that might be present. Only the WHO can convene the whole world in that way. And it's very important to have that convening, especially when we're going to need to run trials on drugs, trials on vaccines through multiple countries at once to be sure that what we have is pretty effective. And I do agree that, Congress has the power of the purse. That's the way the Constitution is set up. The president is an effector arm, and he would have to show that there was some critical malfeasance. There's no embezzlement there. It's his claim that they were, just overly positive to China. Now, China has been transparent on some things, and it has not been transparent on others. Where this virus came from is one issue that is being hotly contested, and most of the information is clamped down. But they did release the genome. It's been very critical to the whole world to develop tests. And the president himself has been positive on China. He's been flip-flopping. I would say, having been the target of some of the right-wing ire, he clearly is looking. First, it was Fauci and Bill Gates, myself, and many other people. He's been trying to push the blame on to others. I do think we're not in the blame game here. We're all got to try to solve this problem, and that is the top priority, not figuring out who made mistakes. There's plenty of mistakes to go around, and his administration has made many of them. But that's not what we're here now. It's April 15th, and we have to get the economy open, and we have to push forward in the safest possible way. And that's got to be the top priority.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.